get passionate about this stuff, and I can talk about it for a while. But let's just get back on track here.
The higher divorce rates as well because the conditions are different now.
I just have a quick question for both Trigger and Marcus. Do you guys still date your wives? Do you still
Absolutely.
do you
I still
still
I still like my wife, so that'll continue for the foreseeable future.
well,
While I still like her, right?
what
People
I'm
be like, "Do you
asking
love your
is
wife?" Of course I do, but do I
what
like her? That's a different question.
Welcome back to Money, Marriage, and Media. I am Mike, and today we are checking out the Lapeef experience. Women says the majority of women fear rejection and as a result struggle with accountability. So in other words, the lack of accountability on women comes from a fear of rejection. This should be interesting. Let's go.
I don't know that women are asking for grand gestures. I think there's a certain level of complacency. Both you and Marcus did slightly allude to it, not only in this conversation, but a couple of other conversations around men's complacency and getting comfortable within a relationship.
Mhm.
I think there's a certain level of attention that a woman requires, even long term, especially within a marriage, in order to keep going, in order to not only be respectful, but loving to that man. I think that most women's fear in a marriage, not just a relationship, but more so in a marriage, is that you get to that point where you're empty nesters and you have no idea who this person is. You've grown so far apart that like it doesn't even feel like partnership, submission, cooperation, whatever it is that y'all started off with, right? And I think that women are inefficiently communicating. I want to be paid attention to. I want to feel like this is still commitment outside of just paying the bills. That you
Mhm.
were actually here. I think Trigger Mike, the last time that we were on this panel together, you talked about your entire presence in the household. I think
Mhm.
women really want that throughout the marriage and aren't communicating properly. They're doing it more so with reprimand. Like,
Translation: a man's value is more than just his wallet and paying bills. Sounded nice and succinct when I said it, huh? Yeah. She's been going on for. All right, let's keep going.
like you were saying, they're using divorce as a tool to say, hey, I'm here too. I'm in this marriage too. I'm not just a child in this marriage, but I am your wife and I want to be treated as such. And I think so many men have become complacent within their marriages that they're just like, well, you have a home, you have food in the fridge. Yeah, I'm taking care of the bills. Like, what more do you want from me? And they're forgetting the fact that this person is actually making all of these sacrifices for them as well. And there's this lack
Mhm.
of appreciation of both parts where women are just like, done. I'm done. Right?
Well, yeah,
I
I
actually,
see.
I
I
agree.
think that's what women report. I definitely have heard those things, those reports too. I think the modern Western woman actually wants too much. I think she miscategorizes some of the priorities in marriage and the realities of marriage. The reason I would say that is that we realize that some women would kill to be with American men. I think we talked about this last week. There are some women who have men who are wholly submitting to them and faithful to them. They can't even keep a stable job in other countries because work is so intermittent, right? So they're looking at it like this guy has a job. He goes to work every day because they understand the primary purpose of marriage for women is survival. It's not happiness. It's survival. That is the Western woman's problem. We think it's about happiness. You find joy. We're trying to live in the dopamine generation, and women are asking their husbands to supply their endless hits, supply them crack through endless dopamine hits like Instagram does. That is not our intended purpose. And that's why we will fail you. We absolutely will fail in that respect every single time because we're not here to supply crack to women. We're here to be providers and we're here to support that family dynamic so we can actually achieve fulfillment and joy through our service. At some point, that's why I realized at some point when the children are gone, When grandparents move in, they get old. We were going to have to redefine and rekindle what it is to be in that marriage, right? And maybe start doing things with each other. But I think women, no matter what you ask them, they are unfulfilled. Here's why: the men of today are more amenable to every single female desire. Most of these men were raised by women. They have no problem washing dishes if their woman asks. They have no problem watching the kids if their woman asks, so on and so forth. And these women divorce these type of men more than they have divorced any man in history. So I think that stat speaks for itself. Nothing a man can do can actually please a woman. It's funny. The more y'all search for happiness, the more unhappy you actually become.
I give a
I got
little pushback with that, Mike, in terms of the divorce. And back then, the difference is I think conditions were set up differently in the past, which kept families together. It was the condition. It doesn't mean that the woman was necessarily happy in her marriage, or it was a happy marriage. The conditions kind of made her be there. But now that when you remove conditions that keep you in a position like that, you don't necessarily have a choice. And when I say conditions, I'm not just thinking about financially. I'm also thinking about social norms, societal norms about divorce. Back then it wasn't as acceptable, whereas now it is much more acceptable, and women have their own access to resources. So I also think that that's partly why you have.
Okay. No. This whole access to resources thing, that's debatable. Just because of there's only so many resources out there. Now, I needed a minute to think about what she said, because we have more access to resources, right? Women do. No, you don't. No, you don't. I had to think about that for a second, and then and I just get reminded that the average woman does not make enough to make it to the end of life through retirement. I know this because the average man does not make enough to make it through the end of life through retirement. We still need each other. That's why talking points like this become irrelevant, because you can get divorced, but all you're doing is putting yourself into survival mode. And even then, you still don't make enough money to make it to the end of life. So what are you going to do? Try and get married again? Well, there's also the data points to say that the second time you get married, you're even more likely to get divorced again. So, this is why I say that the vetting process is so important. It's important that we actually fix it in our community, because it is broken. It's one of those social constructs right up there with the concept of marriage and how we raise our kids. All these things are broken, and we got to figure out ways of making them work. I think the big problem, what's most important here is we talk about, empty nesters and how the marriage or the relationship has changed throughout the years, and that couple has to pretty much reignite the marriage because everything's changed. I mean, once the kids are gone, it's just the two of you again, but you hadn't experienced that in the last almost 20 years. So I agree. Now, the thing that's missing from the conversation, what the young lady did not mention is that relationships are work. The only way you grow apart is if you're not working to stay together. And a lot of times we get too frustrated and too tired to try. That's what happens a lot of times. I mean, this is what they mean by this. This falls up under the category of the reasons for divorce. I think it is number one, lack of commitment, and this what that falls up under. And because, we just grew apart, we're not committed to each other anymore. But of course, whoever's filing for divorce usually blames it on the other person and saying that this is not going to work and I just can't do this anymore. I'm not happy. I still agree that I actually agree with Trigger Mike. He made a point to say that marriage is not about happiness. And it never was. It was always about duty and respect. We're going to get married because number one, we need each other. Number two, we have the same goal, as in we want to extend our legacy beyond our lifetime. In order to do that, we're willing to come together. I think a lot of times what happens is that, most marriages end within the first 5 years. I think we lose sight of what's important. And so, we start doing our own things. We start separating and we're not moving as a unit, mostly because we don't have a plan for how we want to, number one, how we want to make it to the end of life. And number two, how we're going to implement our legacy plan. Those things got to be talked about. But we've probably gone way off topic because, let's just get passionate about this stuff and I can talk about it for a while. But let's just get back on track here.
The higher divorce rates as well, because the conditions are different now.
I just have a quick question for both Trigger and Marcus. Do you guys still date your wives? Do you still?
Absolutely.
Do you
I still like my wife, so that'll continue for the foreseeable future. While I still like her, right?
Well,
People
what I'm
be like, do
asking
you love your
is,
wife? Of course I do. But do I like her? That's a different question.
the things you did to get her to say "I do." Do you still do them after she did?
Okay, so for me, I had experience dating women before my wife, and I understood one thing.
See, the short answer is that everybody expects the answer to be, well, yeah, because you got to keep her. And I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all that's not realistic. Because, again, adding kids into the mix changes everything. When you and your wife are just dating, it's just the two of y'all. Most of the time, both of you are working full-time jobs. Whenever y'all got a minute, oh yeah, well, let's go out to eat. I don't feel like I'm hungry. I'm kind of tired. I don't really feel like cooking. Okay, well, let's go down to Chili's or Applebee's, get something to eat real quick, hang out at the bar, get some appetizers. And then, that's a date and we're going home. It was a spur of the moment thing, right? Or, you know what? I'm kind of bored. I don't really want to watch TV anymore. Let's go to the movies. And then we'll go to dinner afterwards. We need to get something to eat. Adding kids into the mix, you can't do that because you have to plan things out. Well, the babysitter canceled. Well, we both off work and we got the babysitter. Oh, but grandma canceled. She can't make it over here. So now we ain't going nowhere. We had a house with the kids. Like, you'd be surprised how often that stuff happens. So I think because the AP, the accountability partner, he has a point, is that you do need to address those things, right? Because you do still need to make time for the two of you. And that's what I talked about before about, they take work. That's part of the work, is that making sure you make enough time so that you guys are rekindling your connection with each other. But to say that you're going to be able to do it just like you did before, no, that's not realistic. You're not the same person you were before. At least you shouldn't be. I mean, so, you 5 years into the marriage, are we honestly going to say that we're the same people that we were 5 years ago? I mean, let's think about that for a second. Let's say you got married at 25 and I'm the same 20-year-old guy. No, you don't think like a 20-year-old, and you definitely don't think like a single man anymore. But see, that's why I say there's a difference, because when we're dating, we don't spend that much time together. So that we often, there's a popular phrase that says absence makes the heart grow fonder. Okay, well, if we're spending all our time together, there's less for us to catch up on these actual dates, because we've been around each other all this time. Does that mean there's nothing to talk about? Absolutely not. No, one of the reasons why you should marry somebody is that the conversations are easier and communication is not complicated. It's one of the things that we get caught up in with dating, is that, we can just talk for hours. Guess what? During the marriage, you always do that. So I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't, your dating life as a married man should change. And again, because there are going to be, it should change for the better. It's not going to be like it was before. Number one, because there are different circumstances now. Number two, after the marriage, you guys shouldn't be going to you shouldn't be going on the same type of dates. Meaning that, one of the benefits is that because we work together, because we're in partnership, right? Because we're bonded by marriage, that means that we can do a better job of planning things. So it might not be it's the last minute trip to Subway. Well, no, we aren't doing that because that's a wasted trip. That's a waste of time, right? You get that any night. But now let's go to the 5-star restaurant. And see, the deeper into the marriage that you get, the more you should have those luxurious experiences as long as you're budgeting for them. Does that make sense? It's like the dates should get better. But look, I'm probably getting way off topic again. As y'all can see, I like to talk about this stuff because these are the things that not talking about these things can ruin a marriage. And see, this is why you have a divorce rate in what it is because we still living off these old standards of, well, he doesn't treat me like he did back when we were dating. Yeah, because you're his wife. You're not one of 4 girls that he's trying to date. I mean, let's just be honest here. He chose you. So you guys got to work that out. Now, maybe you need to, I'm going to say that for another video because that's getting way off topic. Let's just go.
Consistency is the key. So I wasn't going to start doing something that I was unable to maintain. And I've been real. And if it's something outside of the purview of something I can maintain, I'll make that shit abundantly clear. Like this is not how we moving forever. This is a
smart man.
Because I don't want to set an expectation. That's I always talk about standards, expectations, and boundaries, right? I don't want to set an expectation for me that's so high that I'm gonna work myself to death trying to commit to it, or that I'm gonna create a disappointment just because I can't meet that expectation. So I try and cap things and with foresight plan for eventual things. And I absolutely tap that ass when she walked by. I absolutely like, damn, you know what I'm saying? I see you, that ass poking out. I do all of that shit, all
small
that,
things.
What I'm saying? I'm still flirting like we in high school. Because I believe like when I be hearing men talk about they don't get sex when they wife and all that stuff, I never had that issue, but the whole day continual foreplay because I'm gonna be talking to you. I'm gonna be, you know what I'm saying? Like just I'm brushing up behind you playfully. All of that stuff is gonna be a continual thing, even with the kids. Like I'm kind of getting worried at this point because they get a little older and it's like, all right, we might need to chill with some of this stuff around them.
Dude, man, Marcus just said something there. I can personally relate to that. I still remember with my daughter when, because when kids are young, they're in the crib. They can't leave the room. As they get older, that becomes a problem. So you have to make some changes. You have to make some adjustments, if y'all know what I'm saying, right? But you know what? We didn't really address the topic here. I think that what I'm just trying to summarize what went on here. And I think that one of the biggest things that we need to be talking about here, or what we did discover, is expectations. I think Marcus said it best, is like when you're doing things and you need to be very clear and upfront that, hey, this ain't regular. Because I think what happens is a lot of guys end up going down the road of being a simp, is that you are living, you're dating or you marry above your weight class. And now you got to overcompensate. You're just throwing money at the problem. And that rarely ever works out with any situation, right? We don't know what to do. Just throw money at it. No, that only makes things worse. So in this situation where you have a woman that you don't qualify for and you're trying to use your bank account to cover the gap in sexual marketplace value, you're going to end up going broke. And the minute that your money is gone, guess who else is gone too? So this is why you have to, number one, why guys cannot be delusional. That's a big point here because it helps regulate expectations for the relationship. I love what he said about being upfront about it. I think there needs to be more men who do that. But the thing is that you need to have two things for that. You need to have confidence and an abundance mindset. because if the woman is not going to, if she can't accept that this is not regular, this is a special occasion, if she's still not impressed by it, that means you're dating above your weight class, and you might need to let that relationship go. Or, you probably need to pull back in your pursuit of that woman and just go find you somebody else, because she's not the one for you. Back in the day, we used to call that woman high maintenance, but realistically, that's not really true. That's just you don't qualify for her. Sad but true. But guys, even though the title didn't match, I still think we had a great conversation. Definitely high level conversations. We need more high level conversations so that we can move away from the gender war. Why? Because it's dumb. At the end of the day, I said this before, we still need each other, right? Women need men, men need women. So we need more high level conversations so that we can start peeling back the layers on these gender war topics and actually get down to the root of what these issues are. All right. But great topic. Go subscribe to the Lapeef Experience. I love these. I love when we have panels where we're not trying to over talk each other. And I think that has a lot to do with the host. Usually Shan Monet is the host of this, and she rarely ever lets people over talk each other. It's refreshing to see that, because when you start with this arguing stuff and people just going back and forth, and it's like, I feel like I'm losing brain cells. So it's always a pleasure to watch shows like this. But I'm going to say goes to the next time. Peace.